topics to talk to clients now about insurance. And I think it's a timely topic because it's not only, there's a lot of things going on in the world today that maybe not 3 months, 6 months ago. So there's a lot of things that are changing, and it's a really good idea to talk to clients and see what's on their mind. And I just wanted to give you a couple suggestions around that, and throw some ideas. And if you have any other ideas to add to this list, I'd be more than happy to have you share that with the group today. So to start off, let's go to the next slide here. I'm going to get it to the next slide here in a second. Okay, so why now? What's the urgency now? And there's a lot of things that are going on that really impact our customers. Obviously, the uncertainty around COVID-19. I like the guy's shoe here. He's walking on a tightrope. That is such a perfect picture for me, because a lot of people are just really uncertain around what's going on. You know, I talked to a friend of mine who lives up north, and he can't even get a haircut these days. His barbershops aren't even open. New York City today just opened restaurants, but you have to sit outside. Here in Georgia, we can do a lot of things, but I don't know how many people are doing them. I just saw where Apple opened some stores. Now they're closing stores. So there's a lot of things that are going on around uncertainty around the COVID. It impacts seniors more than it impacts the young. But now I read this morning that the 20, 30-year-old age group is now seeing a sharp increase. And maybe that's because we're relaxing a lot of the rules. But there's just a lot of things going on around COVID. Market volatility. The Dow was down 37% between its high in late February to its low in mid-March. And now it's come back about 30-some-odd% since its low. So what I'm saying here is that there's such volatility that we don't know. You know, some people really don't like to see these large spikes up or down. They liked it when it was more just a slow climb up. Unfortunately, we're not getting that. I think it was last week or the week before, the Dow was down like over 1,000 points, to like 1,500, 1,600 points in the day. Sometimes it didn't move that way much in a year. So there's a lot of volatility going on in the market. High unemployment. I think it's record high. It was 14% in April. I think it's 13% in May. That started out at around less than 4% in February. So we went from near full employment to massive unemployment in just a month or two. Record low interest rates. Good luck finding interest rates on CDs that pay you maybe a little bit more than 1%, 1.25%. Really, the Fed is keeping interest rates near zero. That really impacts a lot of our senior citizens who depend on CDs and just returns on savings. They're not getting that. They're getting very little. So people are in search of yield, in search of where they can put their money and get some money out. With the interest rates being so low, and there's nothing really going to stimulate that rates are going to rise maybe for the next year or two. So for what I read in here is that until COVID really, there's maybe a vaccine or a treatment, until unemployment comes down, there may not be a big change in interest rates. Changing retirement rules. I looked this up last week. A lot of retirement, the basic rules have changed recently. For example, this year there's no RMD required. So if people who take a required minimum distribution, you don't have to do that this year. There's been changes to the retirement age, or the RMD age now is 72 versus 70 and a half. And so there's so many different changes coming into retirement rules that really creates that uncertainty around what do I need to take, when do I need to retire, things of that sort. Lastly, Social Security uncertainty in the years ahead, and I pulled up some information from SHRM, which is the Human Resources Management site, and they said, according to to them, by 2035 they anticipate, and that's only 15 years from now, that without reforms, Social Security will not be able to pay out their benefits. And they also said that the annual cost that in 2020, this is the first year that the annual cost of dollars coming in will not exceed will exceed the payroll taxes collected. So what they're doing is 2020 is the year that they pay out more than they receive. And that's probably even before the COVID hit and all the unemployment and not paying Social Security taxes. So there's a huge uncertainty around Social Security going out into the mid 2030s and beyond. And for people who are going to retire in that time period, that really is a big impact for them. So with all this uncertainty, why now? It really comes down to what can we do? What kind of conversations can we have with customers that will, not really for the sale, although sales are great, but really we want to talk to our customers, make sure we as agents are talking with them, keeping up to date on everything that's going on, listening to the customer, what's going on with in their lives. So I just drew up 7 real quick examples of how we can talk to customers and what we can do to help them. The first is the policy review, and a lot of agents do this. They do it on an annual basis. I would probably say now is a really good time, if you haven't talked to a client about a policy review, is to get them on the phone. There may be a lot of hesitation around having that dinner table conversation, bringing, kitchen table conversation to have with an agent, bringing the agent in the home. Some clients may be opposed to that. So could you do a review over the phone? Absolutely. What's going on? What changes are happening? Kids. Are there new kids in your family, or kids going off to college? What's going on with your family? New home. Did you buy a home? Did you sell a home? Employment. Have there been any changes to your employment? Is employment still the same? Are you different industry, different job? Were your hours cut? That's a concern. What is your biggest concern these days? That is a great question to ask your clients. And they can tell you, well, maybe it's my job, maybe it's retirement. Whatever the case may be, the concern that they have today could be a lot different than they had 3 to 6 months ago. Has your client marriage, divorce, death? This is always, sometimes the agent is the last to know. If someone got married, a divorce, or someone died, maybe a parent died, and that really causes them to rethink, do they have the right life insurance in place for themselves? Did you receive an inheritance? That's a great way that they came into some extra money and they may want to look to invest it, and they may not have notified the agent of opportunities of things like that. Is it time to move to the permanent policy from a term policy? Does an IUL make sense? Now that the market's coming back, maybe it's an opportunity to really talk to the customer about getting those guaranteed returns and have a limited downside with an IUL. So just that conversation, maybe they're looking to have that more of an investment in a permanent policy than just a regular term policy. So any questions on that? I know that's a lot of information. I just wanted to pause for a second to see if there's anything around the policy review, anything that you'd like to add around helping your clients on a policy review. No? Okay. All right, let's go to the next one. Beneficiary review. This is one of those, a lot of people tie it in with the annual review, or you can do it as agents do it as a separate call. Hey, I just want to make sure that the beneficiaries that are on the policy are correct. I make sure who owns the policy is correct. Is there a change of ownership? Who are the current beneficiaries? or who should the beneficiaries be? Ex-wife, ex-husband, it's a lot of times we forget. Say we, not personally, but a lot of times as a client, we may forget to call our agent to say, oh, I got divorced and I want to change my beneficiary. Or sometimes you have to keep that ex-spouse as a beneficiary. Minor children. Are your children hitting the age of 18 where maybe they should be listed as a beneficiary? If they're a minor child, there could be some issues having a minor as a beneficiary. For example, my son just turned 18. There's a reason to put him in, to make him a beneficiary because he's not a minor any longer. Did your client get married or divorced? And is that going to be impacting the beneficiaries? Like I said, they may need to stay on as a beneficiary, or maybe it's not a part of the divorce, and they want to take somebody off and replace it with maybe their new spouse or children or whomever. So just that beneficiary review, it's really a good time to talk to them about that. Okay. Let's see, we go to the next page. Wills and trusts. We want to make sure as agents that the policy is properly owned. It's always good to periodic review. A lot of this is very complex. I didn't go into a lot of detail here, but we want to make sure that wills and trusts are in place to make sure that the client is planning ahead, the proper ownership. Maybe they need a referral, or if an attorney to draw up the proper wills and trusts. The downside of not having this done properly is that if you don't do it, the government will. And I just don't think that's what we as clients or we as agents want to see happen to our clients, that the government's going to make the decision on who gets the money. That's not the right way to do it. So it's always a good time that if a will or trust needs to be put in place, that we get with the client. If they don't have an attorney, maybe we can refer them to an attorney who can draw up the proper wills and trusts for them and make sure that they are planning accordingly around that. Okay. Senior citizens, you talk to a lot of senior citizens, and this is probably not the time that a senior citizen will invite someone into their home or meet with them. From everything I read about the COVID issues, senior citizens are impacted probably the most, especially with compromised health issues and things like that. But it doesn't mean we can't pick up the phone and call our senior citizen clients and talk to them. We want to make sure that, unfortunately, and not just for COVID, just for any issues, that if there's a loss of a spouse, who handles the finances? Is the surviving spouse in a position to pay the bills? Do they know where the passwords are? Keeping a password book or having a file online of all the passwords, you'd be surprised how that is such a big issue. I know after my father-in-law passed away, he had some passwords we could not retrieve. We were on the phone with different companies and different, Schwab and some other places, trying to get some information. We didn't have his passwords. We had to send them all kind of information to get the right assets and make sure everything was okay and we can proceed on taking care of everything. But if we had the passwords, it's been a whole lot easier to see what was there, phone numbers to call, things like that. List and location of assets. A lot of times a senior citizen may not tell their children where everything is located. The heirs don't know. It's really a good time for that instructions and to leave those instructions. And I'll defer. I'll have a real quick question for Tom, who's a good friend and is on the call. I mean, Tom, anything, have you talked to your clients about this, about about making sure their heirs know about the assets?
Well, I've noticed over the years that a lot of them have not told them, and I've emphasized the fact that it's better that you sit down and tell them where everything is located, or you have the document that has the list of everything on it, so that when and if that ever happens, that they don't have to be running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They know right where to go and how to sell and how to settle the estate. And if there is a trust, what's all involved in that trust, and who's the trustee, and how much stuff's involved in it. Because I had one case that there were like 7 or 8 life insurance policies that I had to help the son, who was also a client of mine, get the paperwork together and file for the beneficiaries for the settlement for the money. And the nightmare was the companies that were there, each company had a different terminology that you had to use with reference to the trust account. And it was temporarily a nightmare until we got it all straightened out. So it's important to make sure everything is corrected and done properly, and it's everything's logged down the way it's supposed to, so that you're able to help them find and get it all settled, because you're trying to get the estate settled as quickly as possible, especially for the survivor, because life is going to go on, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because you really want to make it as easy as possible on the heirs. And if you do proper planning, the heirs are going to appreciate that and not have to search all over for hidden assets. So one thing that as an agent is to talk to the heirs, if it's okay with with your clients, is to talk with the heirs, tell them that you're the agent, you have their contact information, make sure you have their contact information, and if something does happen, that you will be there to help out. And that is also a great way to continue with the business. As that wealth transfers to the next generation, you can become one of their advisors, or you can pick up that business. So it's a great way to continue with the business. And I don't know if I'll defer back to Tom on your specialty, but have you seen that too, where you maybe delivered a death benefit check and they come back and want to do something with you as the agent?
Well, what I tried to do is, I had a number of those cases that for one reason or another didn't work out. But most of the time, what I've tried to do, the vast majority over my years, is to, when we were getting close like this, I would say, well, we all need to sit down and go through, so they know who I am, so that when that day's happen, they know how to contact me and I can be in communication with them. And the hopes is keeping them and their children or whatever as clients. Because what I did, I moved down here from up north so we could be with our kids and grandkids. But up there, I was a registered investment advisor, a financial planner. I did investing. I did a lot of things, because my philosophy over the 40-some years that I had in the business, to be able to help people to hold on and help them with all sorts of monies on what they were trying to do, whether they were buying CDs, whether they were investing, whether they were buying insurance, to be able to have control of that and doing hopefully their taxes along the way, to be able to give them a better outlook on what was going on. And for me, that helped a lot of my clients, because of having control, to be able to work with them and do a much better job, as opposed to sending them off to somebody else once you had the knowledge and the answers. So it's a business that is really good, but a lot of seniors today need this kind of advice to be able to help them, because they're probably getting advice from everybody. And what you're trying to do is to pinpoint and help them do a better job on giving them, and them trusting you to help them do whatever they need to do to preparation for either now while they're living, or when that day comes and they become deceased.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I appreciate the input. Yeah, because we're talking to these senior clients, and they don't, they're being pulled several different ways, and they may need a trusted advisor that is going to steer them in the right direction. And we want to make sure that they pass along their wishes their monies and what they want to do goes to the right person and the way they want to do it. And if we can help them with that, I think that's just the better for everyone. That's a really good case of the win-win situation. Okay, thanks, Tom.
Okay, welcome.
Next, retirement. A lot of times it's a great question for your 40s, 50s, 60, early 60 clients. What's in place for retirement? Do you have enough money to hold on till Social Security? What about Social Security now? For the most part, people, it's about 67. You can take it at 62. But most people wait or hopefully they wait till 67 or whatever their 66, 65, whatever their retirement age is for them. But a lot of people are retiring before they reach that Social Security age, and we want to make sure that the customer has income to hold over until they hit that age. I saw an article, matter of fact, in the Atlanta paper just yesterday, Sunday. And it said that a lot of people, I should have brought it with me, that a lot of people are running out of, a lot of people are really liking this early retirement deal. So they're retiring early. They're staying home and they find out that, hey, I like this. I'm doing charitable work, or I'm volunteering, or I have hobbies that I like to do, and they're finding ways to retire. So there's a lot of opportunity there for retirement, and we want people to take advantage. If they want to retire, God bless them, let them retire. But we want to make sure they have enough money. And can we help them with a product that builds up cash value, time that gives them some market and maybe some downside risk with some upside that will help towards retirement. And mortgage, has the client moved, or do they have a new mortgage to protect? Have they refinanced recently? Interest rates are so low. I keep reading about they keep going down 3% range. If you can get a mortgage at 3%, years ago it was 6, 7, 8, 10%. It's been in the past. That's terrific. Does the client want to leave their home free and clear? They want to pay down their mortgage. One thing to consider for a mortgage, instead of putting all that money into a mortgage, they want to put some money maybe into a policy with living benefit. This way they get some upside. If they do need a living benefit, they can take advantage of that so they don't have to die to collect on it. Again, if there's a death, they can use that money to pay off the mortgage. So just some ideas if they have a new mortgage. Mortgage protection coverage is always great to have. If they have a policy that if they die, that pays off the mortgage. Just great benefits like that. And then lastly, final expenses. We're all going to face this at one point, but we want to make sure either there's cash or a policy to cover final expenses. And it's really important that the client either knows there's a policy to cover their final expenses or is included in an existing policy, and that their beneficiary knows that this policy is there to cover any final expenses. If they need cash, maybe they want to do a pre-need where they're paying in advance for that. I'll tell you, that happened to my mother. I found, by luck, I saw some paperwork and I found that she had paid for her funeral 5, 7 years, something like that, before she passed 2 years ago. So that was a great burden off my shoulders that I didn't have to pay for it. Just called them up. They said, what time do you want to do it? Told them, and that was it. Signed some papers, and we were all done. So it was a great relief, and I really thank my mother for doing that. Okay. Now, it helped that she was an insurance agent too. So, okay. Now's the time to talk to your client. Just some other things. Pick up the phone, talk to your clients. College planning is always a big topic. We'll talk about some of these probably on future calls. Charitable giving. Leaving money to a charity of your choice, a volunteer organization is always popular. Tax planning, leaving a legacy, asset diversification. Do we want to diversify the assets if they have too much in one pocket and things of that sort? So always some time we'll leave these for future conversations, but just some other ideas. So, like I said at the start, always interested in ideas for future sessions. Previously, we did the benefits of life insurance, client needs analysis, and living benefits. And then we're going to look to, like I talked with Tom about, maybe having a conversation about the senior market in more detail, talk about some of the carriers that we work with and some of their strengths. COVID and the impact of life insurance. I'm working on this for down the road. This would be a great topic, very timely on what the carriers are doing differently now in the age of COVID and how they're handling life insurance. And then some different marketing concepts on like this, on talking with clients and things that we can relate better to the clients to. So if you have any questions, be more than happy to take any questions in the